Good morning and welcome to another live. Is it Wednesday? Yeah, a Wednesday live. I'm so excited. We're halfway through the week. I personally have a very fun weekend ahead, so, I'm loving that. But today we're going to talk about weight loss. We're going to do it in a really respectful way, one that honors everyone's journey, because weight loss is a very layered conversation. When we talk about weight loss, everyone takes on that conversation differently. So I just want to say off the top, everything that I say today is completely non-judgmental. I have been all weights. I have all types of bodies in my life and my family. I have been in all types of body sizes. So everything I'm saying is truly just like information and from love. So the thing about weight loss that I think that we all confuse and even sort of jam ourselves up about is that we go at it as like the root cause in a way. So we start trying to lose weight. And often when you just start trying to lose weight, what you can do is some pretty dastardly things to lose weight. There's a lot of ways to lose weight that will help you lose weight, but you will not gain any health. It actually might be bad for you. And so when you just try to lose weight, I think it's the wrong mindset. I also think that just trying to lose weight and focusing on weight loss specifically, I think the problem with that is that we are creating a really long journey for ourselves. Losing weight and seeing results on your body takes 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, depending on how much you have to lose, what your goals are, etc. And so if your goal is weight loss, you might lose steam before you get to that 12th week or that 8th week and you quit and then you go back to the way you were. That being said, if you start to focus on things like better digestion, eating for better digestion, eating for blood sugar, obviously, eating for better immunity, eating for better skin. All of these things definitely have some similarities. But once you start doing that, you start to see those benefits much quicker. When you start to eat for blood sugar, you feel that in the moment. You feel that in between the meal that you just ate and the one that you're going to have next. You feel it in the night because you sleep through it. Like, those are quick results. And what quick results allow you to do is stay the course, is like persevere. So if you're eating for blood sugar, you're, eating more of a whole food diet, I get it. We all have processed foods in our diets. No one's perfect. But if you can start eating more whole foods, start eating to balance your blood sugar, being mindful of what you eat, but also how you are eating it, over time, over 12 weeks of doing that, not only are you getting better sleep, are your blood numbers better, but you're also starting to see it in your body. And that's why I think focusing on these different metrics where the byproduct can be weight loss is so much better than focusing on weight loss itself. Because in the end, you will have lost weight, but you also gain so many other things. Whereas when you just focus on weight loss sometimes, what can end up happening is that you do things that aren't necessarily going to gain you any health anywhere else, just in pursuit of looking snatched in your jeans, which I totally value. We all want to look snatched, but there's ways to do it. So again, if you have any questions out of any of my lives, post your comment in the question box about blood sugar, weight loss, reversing type 2 diabetes, etc., PCOS. I'm also down for those questions. And so again, weight loss can be the byproduct of focusing on different things, and then you get a bunch of stuff. It's great. It's like you're glowing and you're looking snatched in your jeans. Your digestion is good, so you're not bloated. You're, not constipated. Like, your stomach isn't like carrying any extra, just like puff, because your digestion is bad, because you've resolved it, or you're working at resolving it. So you're seeing improvements and step forward. And so that also brings me to another point, and it's about inflammation. So the thing about inflammation is when you start to reverse inflammation, you will start to notice that maybe the scale doesn't move, but you look different. People start to say to you, oh my God, did you lose weight? Or you look great. People, I think, are less likely to say, did you lose weight now? Because we know not to really talk about people's weight like that. But people will start saying, like, you look different, you look better, you look great. Tell me what you're doing, you're glowing. All of that. And so you might not lose any pounds, but you're losing the inflammation. And so therefore you're kind of like, you're just glowed up because of that. Inflammation really does make us look super puffy. You don't realize it until you get rid of your inflammation that you're like, oh my God, I was puffy. Everyone goes through puffy phases. But often it's just inflammation in the body. And so I also encourage people to think about that too. You know, maybe it's not necessarily, again, about thinking about losing weight, but it's like, how can I work at reducing some of the things that might be causing inflammation in my body and therefore making me sort of like hold on to water and look puffy? Someone has a question. What can I eat if I can't eat bread or sugar? Any alternative? And how do you stop sweet cravings? Okay, so that's a bunch of questions. The how to stop sweet cravings. So the first thing that you have to do is like cravings are 100% as a result of blood sugar. So you need to balance your blood sugar in order to get a hold of your cravings. One thing that is really excellent for your cravings is making sure that you eat a lot of protein throughout the day. We're not talking about 50 grams of protein a day. We're talking like 100, 75 at least, 100, 125, because that's going to help you keep full. That's going to keep your blood sugar balanced, and it's going to make it so that your body doesn't crave sweets. You're carried from meal to meal because you're focusing on protein. Of course, you want vegetables. I love vegetables. I love a good veg because of the fiber and also the antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, the whole thing. Because you're focusing on protein. Of course, you want vegetables. I love vegetables. I love a good veg because of the fiber and also the antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, the whole thing. But if you are trying to get rid of your cravings or like stop cravings from happening, you need to be eating way more protein if you are like constantly craving things. And your breakfast has to have like a ton of protein. Like you want to start the day with a lot of protein. Before I got on this call, I have already had about 60 grams of protein for this day, and I'm going to eat more protein as the day goes on. And that is one of the ways that I stay very energized, but also blood sugar balance throughout the day. So more protein. And we're talking like protein that's not like quinoa. While it has protein, is not what we're talking about. Beans, while they have protein, that's not necessarily what I'm talking about, because those also have a carb element and can, again, spike your blood sugar. So one thing I do want to talk about, and I see this a lot, and you've probably seen a lot too if you are like focused on weight loss or like, changing how your body looks aesthetically. So one thing that I would suggest is when you're thinking about like calorie deficit, because you do have to lose some of your calories, not lose some of your calories, but you do have to start to like eat less calories. If you're eating a lot of calories and they're sneaking in, you need to eat less, but you also need to make sure that you are eating a lot of nutrients. So it's calorie deficit, not nutrient deficit. That is a very important thing to remember throughout all of this. And so when you think in that mindset, you think about how can I get the most protein for, high nutrient content, but also like not a lot of calories. You have to think about like, if you're going to do intermittent fasting, it's not something that I recommend. But again, if you are intermittent fasting, you want to make sure that you are eating like such high nutrient content within that time frame of like eating. Within your window, you want to make sure that you are maximizing. Oh, I don't know what's happening with my internet. Oh, there it is. Okay. So sorry about that. No, I hope the internet is back because it's giving me a green light. Am I back? Tell me. I'm going to stop before I continue because I don't want to say anything. If I've returned to normal, please send a comment. My internet is so weird. I live in an old house that's been renovated, but like these old houses, my God. Okay, so I hope I'm back. I see a green light on my thingy, so where once was red, so I'm thinking this is a good thing. Okay, so I will repeat what I said. When you are trying to lose weight and you are like prioritizing like a calorie deficit, I also want to make sure that you are prioritizing a nutrient like lots. So not a nutrient deficit, calorie deficit, not nutrient deficit. And that means that if you're intermittent fasting, in your window of eating, you need to be eating really nutrient dense foods. Why? You're eating less. You are sort of like making your body like, it's for some people, it's a lot of work, intermittent fasting. They're hungry. They have to do a lot of things to get through until their next, meal or whatever, until their fasting window opens. And so when you are eating food, you want to make sure that you're maximizing all of everything so that you are energized even while you're in a fasted state, that you give your body enough nutrients for that. Because if you don't, intermittent fasting will not be good for you. It will maybe make you lose weight, but I don't think it will help you gain any health. So if you are going to intermittent fast, it's not my recommendation, but if you are going to do it, you need to make sure 100% that you are making the most of your feasting window, as I like to call it, because nutrients really matter. Someone is dairy good for a diabetic? I think dairy is fine as long as it's high quality, as long as you don't have the intolerance. If you're lactose intolerant, of course not. Dairy is not good for you. It upsets your stomach. It creates problems. But if you don't have a problem with dairy at all, cottage cheese is fantastic. It's so high in protein. That's one of the sneaky ways. I also really like yogurt, like with berries. So I think that dairy can be a part of any well-balanced whole food diet. Of course, the type of dairy and the measure of the dairy definitely matters. That being said, dairy is great for diabetics, but not no-fat dairy. So low-fat dairy, 1% dairy, you want to stop eating that. Because when you skim all the fat off of milk, cheese, anything, well, cheese is a little bit different, but like milk or yogurt or anything, what you leave is the lactose. And that is a sugar. It's milk sugar. And that has a reaction in the body. It can spike your blood sugar. So only things that are like whole milk, 2% is kind of where you want to be at. Just because blood sugar. What can I get to measure my blood sugar? I'm insulin resistant. You can get a CGM. I think I actually have a link to, you get $25 off your first month if you get one through NutriSense. And they also come with a dietitian, which is great because she'll give you recommendations. Well, I'd say she because I had a she. They'll give you recommendations of things that you can do differently. They'll follow up with you if you have like a spike and ask you what's going on. So it's actually really great. So NutriSense. I have a link in my bio to them. That's a great way to measure your blood sugar continuously. You stick it on the back of your arm and you wear it for 2 weeks, and you have an app or like a desktop thing, and it'll show you exactly what's going on based on what you eat, what happens in the night, and it's like fantastic. I'm going to wear one soon. I was going to wear one in partnership with the company, but it's in the States, and the one that they sent me didn't work because I'm in Canada. It's so weird. So I had to order another one. So more content on CGMs coming soon. Okay. Ideas for protein breakfast except eggs. You can make a protein coffee. I have a protein coffee recipe that I share in the Glucose Glow Up. I shared a video on it where I pretty much tell you what's in it in the video. So I have a coffee every morning that is 30 grams of protein. So that kind of sets the tone. And then I have a cup of bone broth, which is 10 grams of protein. So that's 40 grams. I add vegetables. Sometimes I add potatoes if I'm in my luteal phase. It kind of depends. And then I also put a scoop of collagen in my bone broth, an extra one. Just whiz it up. It's completely gone. Just to get to 50. Because then once you're at 50, it's the day is on a roll with protein. And like I said, you want to start the day with a lot of protein. So those are some ideas. I was worried about lactose resulting in further weight gain. It depends on how you consume the lactose. Are you drinking whipping cream? Then that's different. If you're eating butter all the time, I actually love butter, but it just kind of depends. It depends on how you're consuming dairy products. If you're eating really high fat dairy products, but you're not doing anything to sort of maybe you're doing keto and, that's a lot of dairy. It's a part of a well-rounded diet. So it's not like you're eating a ton, I think that's really important to remember balance. To balance blood sugar, do we need to eat protein, fat, and carb at every meal / snack? You don't need to eat all of those. Yeah, you do need to eat all of those at every meal, yes, but not a snack. Honestly, if you eat enough at your meals, you don't really need to snack unless you're doing something that has an energetic output. If I'm not doing a live video, I don't generally have a snack in the like mid-morning anymore. I just have like a really big high protein breakfast, and then it takes me until lunch. But if I'm doing something like this where I'm moving my arms around and I'm talking and all that, like I have a snack before because it like takes energy. But your meals should be balanced. Yes, absolutely. But there's so much more than just like what's on your plate. It's like a lifestyle, you know, there's so many different things. But yes, your protein, fat, and carbs should be present at every meal. What's the first thing I should eat in the morning, and what time should I stop eating? I mean, that's entirely personal. Again, that's like stuff that I discuss more in like private sessions, ask me anything sessions, just because it's like getting really detailed. Because I don't know anything about your life to tell you what time you should stop eating. But it kind of depends on what your sleep's like. If your sleep's not good, you're going to eat later. Certainly, you can eat before bed. But if your sleep is good, we're going to do different things about like wake up, sleep time, eating. So that's like kind of personal, but you also have to check it out. Like if you wake up consistently in the middle of the night, you should probably eat a snack before bed because that'll help you sleep through the night. That's a hot tip that I love to give. What about Premier protein shakes for breakfast? I mean, if that gets you it, phenomenal. They're 30 grams of protein each. They actually don't taste that bad in coffee. I will say that. I've tried them. And they don't taste that bad in coffee. So I say have at her if that's going to get you through. But again, you need to make sure that around these protein shakes that you're having, you're eating a lot of greens, you're eating a lot of vegetables, you're eating a lot of protein sources from whole foods. You're not just trying to cheat it, because while you'll still get a lot of protein, you're not adding any other value. So we also, again, nutrient rich. Calorie deficit, but not nutrient deficit. Are grapes and bananas okay? I mean, I hate bananas, so I mean, I would never eat one in my life. But sure, they're really high in sugar and they can have quite an effect. So eat them as a dessert would be my suggestion. Are protein drinks okay for diabetics? It depends on like if there's sugar in them. If there's like added sugars, like some of them do have added sugars. The thing about protein drinks is like some are really garbage and some are really good. The ones that I've found that are fantastic are the ones that are made from like bone broth or actual like bones, which sounds crazy, but they're so smooth and so good. Very rich. So those ones I really like, but again, you just have to make sure that like the quality is good. And try things out. Try different ones out. Like, I think a lot of people, you buy protein powder and it's like, ugh, that sucks. And this, again, can be costly, so read reviews, of course. But if you don't like it, try another one. Someone says I eat like a bird. It's so hard to eat big meals. To eat less frequent. It's hard to eat big meals less frequently during the day. It's good to give your digestion a rest, like have meals as opposed to just like picking all the time. But you can find like, again, really great collagen powders that mix effortlessly into like cold beverages. So you can put it in like, you know, a juice or a flavored water or something. You can kind of like blend it up. An iced tea that you make, just because you do have to eat enough. Like, but again, enough for you. So completely individual, but you have to make sure that you're getting enough calories. I feel like if you're eating any less than 1,200 calories, just like generally as an adult person, that's not enough food. And also not feeling hungry is actually like if you wake up in the morning and you're like not hungry and you're just like not hungry throughout the day, that can actually be a sign of cortisol issues because the body should feel hungry. So not saying that's you again, that's like, if we were to work one-on-one, it would be like down to that. We would talk one-on-one. But that's just like based on that question, what I would say. Speaking of one-on-one, I almost forgot. I have a sale going on right now. So it is 20% off a private session with me, which is great. I think anyway, until Friday. So if you click the link in my bio, all of the information is there. It's like the first link. And if you click it, the discount's already applied. Okay, let's go to the next question. Sorry. Someone says, I hate bananas too. You get it. I love how I'm eating a donut right now. I mean, a donut's not a terrible thing. Again, I eat cinnamon buns. I feel like I say I eat cinnamon buns like so many times on lives. I love cinnamon buns. I think they are amazing. I love the dough. I love bread. I love carbs, but it's just how you eat them. And also understanding that like extreme cravings for sweets, for carbohydrates is not just I have a sweet tooth. It is there's something going on with like your blood sugar, and so you crave more sweets. That's just like the vibe. They have Glucerna for diabetics. Yeah, they have Glucerna for diabetics, but again, I don't know if those you're like adding any value by drinking those ones. I think there's better ones out there than Glucerna, for instance, that would not spike your blood sugar. What do I recommend for integrating body movement, aka exercise? Walking. Start with walking. Walking is like so easy. It's so approachable. The thing about walking is that once you start, like I always say walking to start, because once you start, feeling more energy, walking helps to balance your blood sugar. And every movement and exercise helps to balance your blood sugar. You start to become more insulin sensitive, which is a good thing. You start to feel better, more energized. So then you can take on more, not necessarily intense, but more hectic exercise where you're like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym or I'm going to go take this class. We have to find the energy for that. So you got to start slow. Walking is great. If you can go on a walk every single day, at least get in like 5,000 steps plus. So, overachieving is great. Then you're going to start to feel more energized ultimately and start to feel better in your body, have more balance. There's a thing about walking and feeling the ground underneath your body. Your body kind of has to adjust to that. And once it adjusts to that, I feel like it's easier to get into other exercise as opposed to going straight for like this hard thing. And then beyond that, I would say like weights. Walking and weights are like so great. I'm also starting a new Pilates, what do you call it? Like wall Pilates challenge. I love lists. So those are the lists of like things I'm doing. So I will report back on that. But yeah, things like walking is great to start. Thinking of low sugar moments, the sleeping is so real. It's so necessary. Yeah, honestly, that's one of the best things, like, and the most quick things that happened when I started balancing my blood sugar when my insulin was resistant was like, I started sleeping through the night, and I just like always thought I had a small bladder. I've always gotten up in the middle of the night to pee, like always. It was just like something that I did. And I just like thought, oh my God, my bladder is small. And then I started having a snack before bed and sleeping through the night, and I was like, oh my God. Because I get a lot of heat. Whenever I post this as like a post on my feed, I get a lot of heat when I say that. People say, well, I drink a lot of water before bed. And granted, there are some situations where you are waking up for a reason other than your blood sugar. But for the most part, it is blood sugar related. And if you try having a snack at night, you'll see. Okay, questions. What kind of tea do I recommend to lower blood sugar? I don't know if I recommend a tea necessarily. Tea is great because it has a lot of antioxidants, especially green tea. The thing about tea, you just got to be wary of. Some of them are heavily sprayed with pesticides. And I'm not even one of those people that's like, oh, you have to eat completely organic. Like, that's not my vibe. But when it comes to tea, it's like pretty aggressive. So just be mindful of that. I like to brew my own. As you've seen on my page, I brew my own like hibiscus tea. They call it sorrel in the Caribbean, so I make my own that. That's more for blood pressure. If you have high blood pressure. If you have low blood pressure, like you don't really want hibiscus or sorrel because it'll make it even lower. But any tea, whatever tea you like, if it tastes good, brew it. Losing weight with reactive hypoglycemia, again, with a lot of protein. Yeah, you have to have a lot of protein. Honestly, sneak ways of getting protein in and also, again, meeting your nutrient values. So things like collagen are great. Those are like sneak ways. Cottage cheese is incredible because it can be used in like sweet applications and savory applications and has tons of protein. Like, you have to be really stealth or eat a lot of like protein at your meals. But my best suggestion is like your snacks in between meals, if you have them, like if you have tea or coffee or like a drink, put collagen in that. That will add like 10 grams of protein if you have like a scoop of it. Cottage cheese snacks. I meant to post the cottage cheesecakes. High protein cottage cheesecakes, but I forgot to do it. Anyways, when I do, you'll see what I mean. But like those kinds of things help you get like a lot of protein, but they don't feel like, oh my God, I'm getting a lot of protein. Because that's how you're gonna lose weight with reactive hypoglycemia. Absolutely. What makes me swell up when I drink alcohol? My face seems puffy. Is it due to being diabetic? Well, alcohol is the most inflammatory thing that you can do. It's the inflammation from booze. People don't want to hear it, but alcohol is bad. I mean, I have the occasional drink now, like occasional, and people in my life drink, like I don't care. But for me, it's like, as someone who had something that was like super inflammatory, eczema, like I just can't really fuck around with booze like I used to. I used to drink all the time, sometimes every day of the week. Like I legitimately know and love alcohol. That being said, it's bad for your blood sugar. It is bad for your hormones. It is bad for your liver. It is bad for inflammation. It's just going to cause all things. And so the result of that is inflammation. Actually, I was watching, what was I watching? Canada has like some really good documentaries on like, you know, our CBC, our national broadcaster. And one was about hangovers. And what they talked about was that getting rid of a hangover has nothing to do with hydrating. Like, yes, you need to hydrate. Yes, you need to eat. But the reason why you still feel like garbage after that is because it's none of that. It's inflammation. The inflammation that it causes on your body is what causes you to feel terrible. And so you can do a lot of anti-inflammatory strategies. You can even take, you know, pharmaceutical anti-inflammatories. They did that in the documentary, and it actually worked at making the hangover feel better, but those are really, really bad and hard on the body. Not bad, but just they're hard on the body. So it's inflammation. And so booze will do that. Booze is going to make you puff up huge. And the older you get, more you have to just be more mindful of like the system. The pipes still work, but they get clogged easier the older you get. And so alcohol, again, you know, trying to conceive all of that. The older you get and trying to do that, you're getting your blood sugar and your thyroid. If you're drinking, you kind of need to stop just because of the inflammation. How late is too late to have a snack at night? Depends on when you're going to bed and depends on when you go to, and when you're waking up. That really matters huge. Like again, and also what's the snack? Like if you're having like ice cream before bed, nah, you shouldn't have ice cream before bed. That's not a good before bed snack. So I'd say it's too late for that. But when I have a snack before bed, I generally have it about 30 minutes before I go to sleep. So I would say that. But again, it's like, what are you having before bed? What about feeling nauseous? Should a person try to drink water versus carbs pre-diabetic? So if you're feeling nauseous, like from eating, I'm assuming that question means, if you can handle it. And I also suggest chicken bone broth for people who are like just getting into bone broth. I like chicken better than beef, honestly. Because that is a way to start to introduce nutrients, like there's amino acids, protein, like healthy fats, vitamins, minerals, the whole thing, collagen. So it kind of like helps wake up the system. So like having a cup of bone broth in the morning, say if you're like someone who doesn't like to eat in the morning, but you know you need to start, having a cup of bone broth to start is easy to drink. If you season it right, it tastes just like soup broth. And then it kind of like wakes the system up gently, and then you can eat something. And that can eliminate some of the nausea. But then if you're continually being nauseous from like food that you eat or whatever, you need to start looking into your digestive system. What's going on in there that is causing you to react to just like a normal human requirement, which is eating? So is there a deficiency in flora? Do you need enzymes? Is it the structural wall? Is it an allergy? Is it leaky gut? Like what's going on? So you have to figure that out. And also, again, if you're feeling that like nauseous, like something's going on in your gut, it's no wonder you're pre-diabetic, because your gut is one of our most prominent, and gut and liver pathways for glucose to be used in our system. Our muscles are the other one. And so, if you are dealing with a gut issue, that means your gut is not really a good spot for glucose to go. So it's like shut off. We've like closed off a pathway. So there's more glucose in the blood because it has less places to go and be used. So it makes sense that you're pre-diabetic and potentially experiencing this. So my suggestion is to book a call with me. I would give you a full like protocol of food, and I would also put you in touch with the right people to help get you like tested. Because I think a Dutch test, or if you want to go deep, a Dutch test or like GI map would be like really valuable in that case. If I get a month's worth in a night and then not drink it for weeks of like alcohol, well, binge drinking is terrible. So if that's what you're talking about, no, that's not great either. Just like having a better relationship to alcohol. Here's what I'll tell you. As someone who is like a party girl, still one, but now with like less alcohol, sometimes no alcohol in the mix, is that you're still fun without booze. Trust me. You are still dynamic. You're still the life of the party. Your friends still want you there whether you're drinking or not. And if they don't, those are your friends. Find new ones. You will find new ones. You can go out and have a few drinks. And if you can't, again, you need to maybe speak to someone, but have a few drinks and then like switch to something sparkling. That's like the move. Or just like start with something sparkling. That's the move. Because if you're trying to resolve inflammation in the body, reverse like type 2 diabetes, and you're struggling, you're coming up against walls, alcohol is not helping you at all. And I say this as someone who legitimately loves cocktails, love wine. If you were to meet anyone in my life, they would tell you that I love all of those things. But I reserve it for like special occasions when I'm like ready to accept the damage, that's being done, and ready to reverse it just because I know how. Okay. Do I think honey is a healthy sugar substitute? I think honey is great. I don't think sugar is necessarily bad. It's like, but again, how much sugar are you consuming? What kind of sugar? Where is it? Are you putting it yourself, or are you eating something that has lots of sugar added? Those are the things you got to think about when it comes to sugar. I like honey, but you want to make sure, like honey, again, if you're just looking at it for sweetness, it's like sugar, whatever honey, it doesn't matter. But if you are also like, oh, honey has health benefits, you want to get honey that is local to you, because the bees pollinate and like sort of like get all the allergy protectants from all the little flowers and pollens and things in your area, and it goes into their honey. When you eat it, you get a protective benefit. Proven, science behind it. So honey for like benefits should be local to you, should be raw. Don't feed it to babies. Always use like a clean spoon when you dish out your honey. Like the thing about honey is it's an anaerobic environment, which means there's no oxygen. But once you introduce oxygen and potentially a pathogen, so like something on a dirty spoon, honey like can actually kill you. So just be careful of honey. I love honey. I have honey. I used it this morning. But just be careful. I also love maple syrup because I'm a Canadian, so I would love maple syrup. Like big ups to maple syrup. But if I have to have a sugar, I usually have brown sugar just because there's like a little bit of molasses in it. I mean, it's not like a value where you're like, oh, I had blackstrap molasses. Like, no, you didn't. But, I like brown sugar a little bit better. Just make sure I get to the questions. Oh, someone says, I meant if you haven't eaten in a while and you all of a sudden get a nauseous feeling. That means that you're hungry. That means your blood sugar is going low. And your body is starting to be like, hey, we got to eat or we're going to pass out. So that's not good. That means you need to either find ways to hold your blood sugar in between meals. So better meal composition, better like understanding of how to eat that meal. Or maybe you need to start eating things in between meals that it's going to help sustain your blood sugar to the next. But that could just be that you need to eat. Like you should have eaten sooner. Like if you're going 5 hours without eating and then you're getting shaky, well, yeah, you should have eaten like an hour and a half ago kind of thing. Are sardines and olive oil good? Yeah. Delicious. Every time I eat sweets, I get a pain in my chest. Is that a sign? Oh my gosh, I don't know. I can't diagnose that. I don't know. I can't tell you that. How to avoid refined carbs and processed foods when it's always around you. So that's hard. I actually acknowledge that that's hard when it's like always around you. One thing I will say is that, like, can you have a conversation with the people who are always bringing it around and say, like, yo, I'm on this kind of journey. Can you help by not bringing it around me for just like the next like month? Honestly, if you can find ways to like balance your blood sugar and sort of like get into this vibe for like 21 days to a month, after that month period, having it around will be less triggering for you. It will also be less desirable to you because your blood sugar will be balanced. So you won't be craving it and then it's in your face and I have to have it. So that is something that I would recommend. If it's always around you and you bring it around, well then you have to stop bringing it around. Again, one thing that makes it easy is just not having it in the house. I know like Oprah said it on her show, because I like, love Oprah, and she would say it on her show all the time, everywhere, just like, don't have it in the house. But that actually does carry weight because yes, you might have to go out and get it, but that's like an extra process. Sometimes by the time you get in the car and drive to go get it, you're like, you turn around because you like get real in your head and you're like, I got goals. I live in a city where you walk everywhere. And quite frankly, if I want chocolate and I don't have chocolate and it's like 9 p.m, I'm just not having chocolate because it's not here. But I do generally have chocolate because I use it a lot in recipes, but that's just like an example of like the not having it in the house. So it kind of just depends. Any recs for detoxing? Well, detoxing is hard because it's very individual. Like, what are you detoxing? What's going on? Detox as like a blanket term is like dangerous because there's so many types of detoxes. Some good, some very, very bad. So it depends. Drinking okra water for people with diabetic. I've never heard of that. Sorry, I don't know. But, I mean, I will just say I'm not a huge fan of okra. It's a texture thing. So I would never do that, even if it was good for blood sugar. But if there's science behind it, I mean, have at her. Hi, I'm pregnant and type 2 diabetes. Any advice or suggestions? Eat more protein. Got to up the protein. That will help very much. And walking. Start walking a lot. Like after meals, go on a big long walk after dinner or something, or like whatever meal that you have that is like your most, like the one where your sugar is like crazy after, go on a walk after that meal. That'll help. With type 2, you don't want to do vinegar. You just have to make sure it's not raw, because if it's raw, you don't really want to do anything raw just in case when you have your baby inside. I'm on medication. Should I be eating my light breakfast because I have to wake up early around 4 a.m.? I mean, I think you should eat within an hour of waking, regardless of when that time is. But if it's like so early and you're like, oh my God, my body is just not ready to eat and digest, that's a perfect opportunity for just like warming up some bone broth and like drinking that for like an hour and a half. If it's like a big mug and maybe has some other things in it, because that'll like be, again, something to wake you up and something to have in your body that's giving you vitamins, nutrients, all of that. But it's not like heavy, like a morning breakfast. Okay. Sorry, just scrolling. Do I know if the hibiscus drink can be taken during pregnancy? Generally considered safe, but if you have blood pressure issues whatsoever, then, check with your doctor, check with your provider. I think anything with pregnancy, because it's like, there's some universal truths about pregnancy and things you shouldn't have in pregnancy, of course. But there's also some things that it's like, if you have this, you can't. Or if you don't have this, you're able to. And so that's always something to consider with pregnancy advice. What keeps me consistent on how do I practice discipline? I'm very goal-oriented. I think you have to become goal-oriented, but it's also a mindset. I say it in every live, like it's all a mindset. You really have to be like a changed kind of like idea up here. Like, you are that person that meal plans. You are that person that meal preps. You're that person that, thinks about the food that they're putting in their body. Like, the funny thing about this world is that people come down so hard on people that like pay attention or are mindful about the food that they eat. I've been told because I like eat for my blood sugar that I have an eating disorder. I absolutely do not. I know that I don't. But I've been told that, but it's by someone who I'm sure has no problem like binge drinking on Friday and then ordering Uber Eats all day on Saturday, and no one bats an eye. And so I think that, sometimes you come up against resistance when you are trying to be consistent and trying to change your life by the people in your life, because you changing starts to reflect on them, maybe things that they need to change. People don't like that. So one thing is boundaries. If you have someone in your life that is always commenting on your lifestyle, your plate, your weight, anything, you have to start putting up boundaries with those people. You don't tell them the things. So if you're doing a new thing, you say, you want to start eating for blood sugar or, whatever the case, maybe don't tell them, just because why tell someone that's going to knock it down? Like, let them just see it in action. Maybe they say things and you have to start putting up boundaries and say, like, you don't say that. I don't like when you say that. It hurts my feelings, however you word it. Because that also affects how consistent you are. Also, discipline and willpower are kind of a fallacy in the sense that it's more about preparation and setting yourself up for success. You can have discipline and all of that when you are set up for success. And what I mean by that is, like, you can eat really healthy meals, high protein diet, whole food diet, if your house has a ton of those things in it, if your house is stocked and ready for you to be able to access those things. And so you can have discipline in that situation because everything's there. But if on the flip side, if there's still like chips and chocolate bars and like takeout and like all of these things there, then it's hard to have discipline, because now you're having to implement something like willpower, which just waxes and wanes, quite frankly. So there's a lot of ways to stay consistent, but most of it comes to how you're setting yourself up. How honest are you being with yourself? Honesty with oneself is very important in this healing journey, because you have to be honest about how you're contributing to whatever you perceive as the problem, because you have to then change behaviors around that for anything to work. Sometimes the problem is our brain. Sometimes life is like a horror movie and the calls are coming from inside the house. And until you fix that, you will have no success. And I'm sorry, I know that sounds really blunt, but it's just true. Honestly, the people who are, the thing that like gets in our way the most is ourselves. We are self-saboteurs. That's just like how it is. We like to blame other influences, but often it's us getting in our way. Often, not always, but often. And so, that's kind of like how you create the consistency. I also just want to say to everyone, I put this whole live, I reposted on my YouTube this afternoon. So if you weren't here from the beginning, you can go watch there. I have the link in my bio. Someone says, this is what's been so confusing. Can you actually have sugar? You can have sugar. You just have to have it differently. You have to be more mindful of the consumption. And if you're eating a lot of sugar, of course you have to eat less sugar. But the thing is you want to have a whole food diet. Whole food focus. Not all the time. 20% of the time, live your life, do whatever you want. That's what I do. But 80% of the time, eating whole foods, and there being sugar in the mix in a balanced and also like make sense way, then of course, like for instance, if you're making a dressing that's like soy sauce and like, maybe like sesame oil based, you kind of need a little bit of sugar in that in order to balance the flavors. As a chef, I couldn't imagine not having a sprinkling of brown sugar to make that sauce. But it's like, if I had the mindset of it can never have sugar, I would be panicked and anxiety ridden about that. But that's not how it is. You have to think to yourself, how much nutrient value, so again, counting nutrients, how many nutrients are on this plate? If it's chocolate block, then it's like a little bit of sugar for flavoring or to add seasoning or whatever is all good, in my opinion. Drinking corn husk water for diabetics. I don't know about that. I'm sorry, okra water and corn husk water, that's news to me. But if it works and there's like science behind it, hit it. Why not? I don't think I would drink corn husk water if I'm being fair, but again, that's fine. How do I lower my cortisol level? There's so many ways to lower your cortisol levels. But the first thing is you have to stop having cortisol responses. So if you have blood sugar issues, every time you have a glucose event, you have a cortisol response because it's stress. So you need to stop having that. If you are continually like amped, like ready to fight, ready to knuck and buck, like you're just there, you need to relax. And I know that's like when people say, oh, just relax. Like, what do you mean? But stress isn't going anywhere. We live in 2023. Like everything's stressful right now. But you have to come up with management strategies. How do you manage the stress that's in your life? That's really how I look at it. There's a lot of things that stress me out, but you know what? I fly above. That's a Candy Burris lyric if you watch Real Housewives of Atlanta. I fly above because it's like I cannot take it on because that's going to make me inflamed and going to give me cortisol and going to hurt my adrenals. So that's number one. And then also you want to look at heavy metal impact because it could be having an impact on your liver, it could be having an impact on your thyroid, your adrenals, and therefore your cortisol levels are like all over the place. So there's many things to do that you could do for cortisol levels. But the first one is non-facetiously relax. Find stress management strategies. Because that's going to help tremendously because you're like not having a cortisol response. Also, if you work out a lot, stop working out really intensely because that's stress that you're putting on your body. Like when I say relax, I don't just mean like you're like, oh, I'm going to go home and veg. I mean like the exercise that you do, pull back on it, make it more gentle. You know, try and eat when your body is hungry because that cortisol is released and again, cortisol response. So like, that's what I mean by we need to just like relax. How can I get rid of physical symptoms of insulin resistance, like darkness of skin? Well, you got to get rid of your insulin resistance and not just for like, oh my God, I have no insulin resistance. Like insulin resistance is gone. Like all the markers of it, your blood sugar and glucose curves are flat for like 3 months, 4 months. Then you'll start to notice the darkening of the skin goes away. My type 2 diabetes, and after I started my medication, I'm feeling very weak and pain in the muscles. I would definitely talk to your physician about that, but also that sounds kind of like low blood sugar. Like maybe your meds are just like too high because feeling like fatigue and just like, oh my God, like you have like fibromyalgia, that can be a sign of like really low blood sugar. So it might be making your blood sugar low. I don't know. See about that. I would talk to your medical professional. And if they dismiss you, it's time to start looking for a new one because that's unacceptable. Someone said, just purchase the workshop. Excited. Yay. So glad you purchased the workshop. It's great. If I do say so myself. Okay. So I'm get your last questions in, because it's almost 11. I just found out I'm pre-diabetic after having gestational diabetes with my son. You know what? They're starting to recognize that if you have gestational diabetes, you're likely to get, or you're more, you have more of a, what is it? I don't know. You're more likely. That's not the word though. But your body has a propensity to get something like pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes after that instance of gestational diabetes. So you need to flatten your glucose curves. The thing about being pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetes is you can absolutely reverse it. It's a lifestyle, certainly, but reversible. And you also, what I like to say to people, to whoever just bought the workshop, sorry, I didn't catch your name. I'm not going to scroll up. Sorry. But you will realize when you watch the workshop, when you work with me, when you do anything, that it's the framework of your life because it is a lifestyle. If this was something that was super punishing that you had to fit into and was like, oh my God, I can't do this, then, and like this, like just way that I like choose to approach it, then you wouldn't do it for very long. You would do it for like the required amount of time and then you would stop doing it. And that's not the point. You want to change your life, become that girl. Like this is your new life. But you feel good. You get to eat food that you still love. And it's like a whole vibe. It's the best. No blood pressure issues, but hormones are out of whack. So if your hormones out of whack, there's a couple things you need to look into. Your gut health. Gut health directly affects hormone levels because we have an estroblome, which is our like the flora that feeds estrogen, and then again estroblome, estrogen. So your gut is definitely have to be looked at. Your liver as well. And even so, the thing about like thyroid and things like that, the first place you want to start with thyroid or hormone issues is look at your gut and liver, because when those things are having dysfunction and not working in the way that they should, they're not optimized for whatever reason, that's when things can go haywire, truly. It's the root cause of so many things. Is there a recommended amount of time, days per week for strength training? It kind of depends on you, your life. Like if you, I would say like 3 times a week is probably a really good generalization. And amount of time, like I don't really like to work out longer than 25 minutes, because anything after that, that length of your time of your body being in a stress state, which is what exercise is, can have a cortisol response, can actually become inflammatory on the body. And so I don't work out any longer than 25 minutes if it's something like that. Like if I go on a walk, I'm like walking, whatever, it's however long it takes. But if I'm like working out, not generally longer than 25 minutes. And if I do a class, it's like a class, I always choose the like shortest time class, like 45 minutes if possible. Do you know how to get your period back? If you have PCOS and insulin resistance, you need to work on your liver, and you also need to balance your blood sugar. Those are the 2 things that are going to be like super important. Also, stop drinking. I have high blood sugar even in fasting. Fasting is not helping you, so you need to stop doing it. If you started fasting because you're like, oh, this is going to help me get my blood sugar under control, and it didn't work, you need to think of a new approach. Because if your blood sugar is up still in a fasted state and you're like doing the fasting, you're probably having cortisol stuff go on too, and then there's inflammation happening too. So it's like just like a whole host of things. So I recommend not fasting and trying something else. If you're fasting for religious reasons, I'm never coming for that. But if you're fasting for like your health and it's not working, time for a new approach. What can I do to completely get rid of insulin resistance and prediabetes in months? Well, you could join the Blood Sugar Fix, which is my program. It's also 25% off until Friday. Because you need to think about blood sugar, the 3 pillars. Blood sugar, there's gut and liver, and then there's inflammation. Blood sugar covers the top level. It stops all of the ups and downs so that you get energy back into your body to be able to get to the root cause. Then you need to think about your gut and your liver. Those are the two very important pathways for glucose use in the body. When those have issues, you will have glucose issues, and persistent ones. Like you won't be able to get your glucose under control other than with medication. And that's, I don't think, what you want to do. And then after that, it's working on inflammation, because it's like, once you've healed the gut and the liver, once you've stopped these inflammatory responses from happening from your blood sugar and cortisol and all of that, then you have to resolve the inflammation that was a result. And so that's the 3 pillars. If you go into the link in my bio, there's a free webinar. It's called Fix Your Blood Sugar. And I talk about those 3 pillars to help you understand. But the thing about reversing type 2 diabetes naturally, and, you know, even PCOS and experiencing PCOS completely differently in your body, is you have to think of those 3 pillars. It's not just one or the other. Like you have to think of all 3. Like if you just try and start with inflammation, the problem is that you're still causing inflammatory responses if you don't know what you're doing with your blood sugar or what's going on with your gut. If you're trying to fix your gut, but you're having all of these inflammatory responses and cortisol issues because your blood sugar is crazy, then it's not going to help the situation. And so that's why it's ordered in that way: blood sugar, gut and liver, inflammation. Do I recommend berberine for insulin resistance? If so, what brand? I like berberine. I like Ancient Bliss berberine, and I also like their inositol. They have Mayo and D-Chiro, so it's like a blend. I actually just did a video about it today. So I love Ancient Bliss. Both of them are linked in my bio. The only thing about berberine is that you have to take a break because it can have some create gut disruptions in some people. So they recommend that you take a bottle and then like take like a month or 2 off. And so for that reason, and that reason only, because I do love berberine, I think it's very effective, I would suggest inositol because it's generally considered safe as far as like taking it day over day. I tell you how to take it in today's video, and you can go check that out on my feed right now. Okay, these are the last questions I'm going to answer. Is walking exercise walking every day enough form of exercise? I mean, in the beginning, certainly, but if you want to like cut and like, if you want to balance your blood sugar, yeah, but then if you want to start like seeing like different types of results, then you need to add weights and like, you know, body weight exercises and stuff. But walking is like a phenomenal form of exercise. Okay. Last question. What exactly do I tell my doctor when I want to check my gut and liver? They will not check it for you. You need to do either a Dutch test, which is urine, or you need to do a stool like GI map, which is poo. Your doctors will not check it at all. And if you ask, they will check certain hormones, but they will leave out other things. And like, honestly, you're just going to come up against a lot of resistance. So I wouldn't go to your doctor. I would go to a naturopath, or I would go to a functional practitioner or someone who can get you in touch with the right people. I can do that if you do an Ask Me Anything. I can put together a whole list of people who would help you, because your doctor's not going to do it. So, unfortunate. So, okay, thank you, everyone. What I will say before I leave is that this will be posted in its entirety on my YouTube page by 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so you can watch it then. I'll post on my story when it is, so that you know when it's up. And I'll be back tomorrow for more questions. See ya. Have a wonderful